We're just near Yundi on the Finniss River. We're up on the upper reaches of the Finniss River, and the Finniss River flows down into Lake Alexandrina, and it's one of the rivers that's part of the Eastern Mount Lofty Ranges area. We're here monitoring fish. We do this every year in autumn, and what that means is we catch the fish and we count them just to see how the fish populations are going, and it tells us a lot about the health of the watercourse. One of the more important things is to realise that we have got this fantastic native fish living there, and a lot of people don't realise that we have got so many species in these creeks and rivers. They're a fantastic part of our environment.
So we use a range of techniques to sample fish across the Mount Lofties. Here we've got some pike nets. So we essentially set them in the afternoon. They catch fish moving around in the afternoon and overnight. Then we retrieve them in the morning and we see what's in the nets. So we often catch thousands of fish in some of these nets.
Monitoring fish tells us how healthy the watercourses are. The fish rely on other parts of the ecosystem within the rivers and creeks. We can tell how healthy the creeks are by what fish are there and how many of them there are.
Today we've caught Mountain Galaxias, you can see in the net there. So they're a native freshwater fish that is quite common through the Mount Lofties. They're a real indicator of good conditions, so they need flowing environments to survive and to reproduce. And so it's always a good sign to detect them, particularly the juveniles, which means that they've spawned in this stretch and the population's being sustained. So across the Mount Lofties, there's about 33 different freshwater fish species. We've caught probably half of them so far in our monitoring. We've still got a few to go. And the monitoring is really focusing on those threatened freshwater fish. So we've caught some river blackfish, which is threatened across the region, caught some southern pygmy perch down at the lower reaches of the Mount Lofties. Mountain Galaxias we've caught and a few others. It's really important that we keep picking up these rare species across the Mount Lofties. It's a bit of a really important region, the Mount Lofties. It's got lots of flowing habitat and supporting threatened species is really encouraging, and to see them persist is a really good result.
In the Adelaide Hills we've got a couple of water allocation plans. One of the really important things that the water allocation plans do is set a limit the amount of water that can be taken for consumptive use, and that limit is set by taking into consideration the needs of the environment, the economic needs for that water, social needs and Indigenous cultural needs. We need to know if policies in those plans and the limits in those plans are working, and the way that we tell whether they're working for the environment is by looking at the health of the creeks and the rivers, and we can do that by looking at the fish populations.
All the fishing we do is catch and release, so we will catch them, ID the different species, measure them and count their numbers, then we release them safely back into the water.
When we set the limits in the water allocation plans, we do this through talking to a whole range of people, including members of the community. And it's really important when we have those conversations to have some really solid data on what's actually going on out in the watercourses and the creeks.
The things that impact and stress freshwater fish across the region, in addition to the invasive species I mentioned, it's a lot to do with flow and habitat. So it's across much of the world, flow modifications impacted rivers and streams and habitats for freshwater fish, and that's true of the Mount Lofties. So in the Mount Lofties it's a lot of farm dams, so there's almost 8,000 or more than 8,000 farm dams across the region. They all take a little bit of water, and then that impacts the stream flow or the flow in the river, and then that obviously in turn impacts freshwater fish, so that a lot of fish have queues that are tied to the flow regime. So Mountain Galaxias need certain flows to occur to spawn and to recruit, and they also need, the refuge pools need water in them throughout the year, so in summer those pools need to be maintained in good condition for the fish in them to make it through the summer essentially. A lot of the sites across the Mount Lofties are on private property, and overwhelmingly we've had a really good response whenever we go to a site. Landowners are really enthusiastic about the fish and encouraging. The simple things they can do, fencing off areas is really important so cattle don't get into some of these areas.
So if you're thinking about doing something in your watercourse, come and talk to us at the Hills and Fleurieu Landscape Board, and we've got people who can give you great advice on how to do that in a way that minimises the impact on the watercourses.